Kasim with Solutions 8, and in this video I want to try to answer the question, does running paid advertising influence my organic ranking? Or, in other words, does PPC help SEO? Now, just to spoiler alert, I'm going to say, yeah, it does, and I have anecdotal proof of that. But what's catalyzed this whole discussion is an article that came out from Search Engine Journal. Google Ads salesperson alleged to link organic ranking to ad spend. Le gasp. This kind of pisses me off about. Now, I love Search Engine Journal. I've written for Search Engine Journal, and normally I think their content is really high quality, but this is just legit like supermarket rag sheet junk. A member of the search community, the most vague moniker in the world, alleged in a tweet that her client was explicitly told by Google that spending more on pay-per-click advertising would improve their organic search rankings. So basically, somebody told somebody that somebody else said something, and if you go on to read the article, they claim to have it in writing, but they don't show screenshots of that at all. So, who knows whether or not they do or they don't. One thing that I want to mention is, if you're on the phone with Google, let's go air quotes, with Google, you're probably not on the phone with an actual Googler. At least that's been my experience. There's a bunch of companies that Google subcontracts out to. There's actually, I'm in Arizona. There's one right here in Arizona, and I know that because when I have job listings, a bunch of them always apply for my jobs. It's a company called T-Tech, T-T-E-C. And so Google subcontracts out to T-Tech, and then they help with like consulting and I think some of the cold calling and whatever. I don't know. So maybe this person was on the phone with a real Googler, maybe, but it seemed kind of like a low-level sales rep, which is the type of thing that Google outsources. There's a couple of companies out of India that they do that with too. So, I mean, the odds of this just being like some outsourced salesperson who's just trying to make a sale and wanted to lie to do it, seems way higher than like there's this grand conspiracy where Google's shaking down businesses, which is what the article went on to say. I don't buy that at all. And it's also really interesting too because the poor man Matt's Cuts chimed in. Danny Sullivan. So if you remember Matt, I don't know if anybody remember Matt Cuts. Y'all remember him? He was head of the Google anti-spam team. He's the one that used to come out and teach us how to do SEO. The new Matt Cuts is Danny Sullivan, and I don't dislike Danny at all. I'm sure he's a phenomenal person. But he's not, like, Matt was always very straightforward. He just sort of shot us straight and, kind of gave us the way that it was. And Danny's a politician. And it's interesting to see some of the things that he comes out with and some of the things that he says. Here's what I think is funny about SEO, and just the fact that somebody like Danny Sullivan exists in general, like that role exists, him or Matt, is Google has come out and said, do not try to manipulate search rankings in any way. It's a violation of our terms of service for you to try to manipulate search rankings. Well, that's what SEO is. So all those SEOs running around saying like, I don't do black hat SEO, I only do white hat SEO. It's like, all right, it's all a violation of Google's terms of service, basically. Now, obviously, there are the right ways to do it and the wrong ways to do it, but I just mean philosophically speaking, I think it's interesting that Google says, don't try to manipulate search rankings in any way. But if you do, here's a guy that you can talk to who's going to teach you how to do it the right way. I think that's really funny. And Danny did exactly what you'd expect Danny to do, which is, I imagine he fired some people, but he basically said, that's absolutely wrong. We're going to track down the person who said this. There's no truth to it whatsoever. Now, here's where I start to fight Danny a little bit. If you go look at the ranking factors and ranking signals, there are two entities that I know that collect this data, I think, with quite a bit of, in a way that makes it... you couldn't argue against it. So Moz is the first one, and then Neil Patel is the second one with his KISS metrics. Moz has their ranking factors report. I think they release it every year, at least they used to. And you'll notice one of the things that always makes the top of the ranking factors report is user engagement. So are people, when they come to your website, are they engaging, downloading, subscribing, calling, scheduling, filling out forms, doing whatever it is you want them to do? User engagement improves your ranking. That's a fact. In as much as there can be facts around SEO, because there's, it's all, I realize correlation isn't causation, but that's, I think, a commonly accepted fact. So I'm going to just assume that you're not going to fight me on that. Cool. We're there. We did it. Here's what's interesting, is Google is solution agnostic when it comes to the traffic that it's using to measure engagement. So if you're driving paid traffic to your site and that paid traffic is performing well, that can improve your organic rank. Ergo, PPC helps SEO. Now, it's not the way that you would think. It's not like, oh, if I pay money to Google via PPC, it's going to help me rank organically. Like, we're not saying that. It's not like a tit-for-tat, quid pro quo, whatever the other cliche term is. But there is a lift. Here's what's really interesting. Quick anecdote for you. And I realize that this is anecdotal, but I think it's a really strong anecdote. We had a client that we were managing their SEO for 3+ years. It could have been longer than that. It was at least 3 years, maybe 4. And they sold medical device equipment. And we're doing their SEO, and they're slow and steady wins the race, regular upticks, and we understood their markets, cyclical swings. We got a really strong sense of the data that was available and accessible. They did not want to run Google Ads for various reasons. We finally get them to start running Google Ads, and all of a sudden, their SEO starts taking great big lifts that it wasn't taking prior to. Now, you could say a bunch of things. You could say, well, you were able to earn links that you weren't getting otherwise, or the increased visibility led to more brand awareness, blah, 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 blah. Whatever the actual line of events is, I'm sure it's complex, but it is still pretty interesting that 3 years running SEO hardcore and doing all the things, Power Pages, link building, full-on technical SEO, and by the way, I have the best technical SEO guy in the whole wide world. His name is Michael Kasim. Go just Google SEO consultant, and no matter where you are in the world, he'll be on the first page. His website's michaelkasim.com. I'll drop it in the description. I'm not an affiliate. I just love him. We had the best of the best of the best of the best on this for 3 years, and we're getting slow incremental growth. All of a sudden, I start running ads, bam, and we own the space, and we're getting snippets and all sorts of things. So again, I don't think that Google is intentionally prioritizing people that are paying them money via Google Ads. I don't think that's happening, but I do think that some of what you're able to earn from a user engagement perspective just ends up empowering you organically. Now, can I prove it definitively? No. I'd probably be taken out if I could. They're coming for me. But there's enough, and they're not the only one, by the way. We have another company that does document, how do I veil their identity well enough? They do some type of document remediation that involves government documentation. Same story. You're running organically all on its lonesome, and you're getting slow and steady wins the race. You tie paid ads into that, and you start seeing significant improvements. Paid advertising and SEO, I think, go hand in hand. They play very well together. So, that's all I got. Read the article from Search Engine Journal. I'll drop that in the description too. If you like the video, give me a thumbs up. Comment if you disagree with what I'm saying, by the way. I'd be really interested I'm a PPC guy, so hardcore SEO guys, that's where I started my marketing journey, was in SEO, but forever ago. I brought up Matt Cutts, you know what I mean? How long has it been since he's been around? So if you're a hardcore SEO person, you want to yell at me, I'd love your opinion. And don't forget to subscribe if you want to see a video like this every day. I'm almost at 1,000 subscribers. I'm so close. I think I'm 20 away. So please help me. And that's all I got. Thanks for watching, and I will see you tomorrow.